Well, hello and welcome live from our studios in Auckland Park, Johannesburg. Thank you for tuning in. You are watching The Week Ahead. Again, throughout the show, you can interact with us on our social media platforms using the hashtag #WeekAhead or @TheWeekAhead. For now, though, I'm Liezle Wilson. Let's take a look at some of those top stories for today. African National Congress President Cyril Ramaphosa will close the province's 9th elective conference in Durban later today. World Health Organization declares monkeypox a global health emergency. And on a somber note, South African actor, playwright and theatre director Mqedisi Baldwin Shabangu has passed away this morning. Right, those will look at some of your headlines. Let's get into some of those stories now on The Week Ahead. First up, ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa is expected to officially close the 9th KwaZulu-Natal conference today. Last night, Premier Liezle lost the race for the position of ANC provincial chairperson to Zboniso Duma. Meanwhile, the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal has for the first time seen the election of a woman to the party's provincial leadership. Nomagugu Simelane Zulu is the ANC's provincial deputy chairperson. Currently, nominations of additional members are taking place. On that note, let's take you live there.
Right? Is that what you are trying to explain to us?
Yes, Chair.
Okay. Mamela ke bhuti wami. Imakana ukundilinde. Kwenzela uba mina nawe singathethi sobabini. Uthethe mna undilinde ngigqibe. Now, all that you then say is the Never do that. Don't howl me when I'm speaking. Don't do it. Don't. No. Don't do that. I am still talking. When I am finished, you will talk. That's how comrades of the ANC behave. What do you want to do now? What behavior is that? What behavior do you want to display here? No, don't do that. Don't. Comrades, sivumelene apha into ba everybody will be given an opportunity to raise the name. That's why there's this long queue here. Ngiyacela sibekezelelane and everybody will be given that opportunity. We understand now the two songs that have been clarified to the conference. Can we allow the elections to continue with its work?
Chair.
But it's I'm rising on a point of order, Chair.
All right.
I think, Slalo, you are too emotional.
Okay.
Unobhala region yasemzala Nxumalo uthe wena uzokhuluma wena, so you can't say that when you comrade. Ngoba sila sonke singama comrade. Siyacela uyeke ukuba emotional Slalo. Usiqhube kahle.
Accepted. I will try not to be emotional.
Chair. Chair. Best clarify, Chair. Can you correct the door which is Chair? Sinabo sibusiso about who? So lo munye owasemzala omunye owasebusandlala. So uphakamele lo wasebusandlala. I mean
Uzawuphakama owasemzala Nxumalo.
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Understood. Right. We accept that without any emotions.
Asibonge.
Yimakaloku mntanami uba uzawunominate indima odila nama-nominations bendisalungisa laa nto ye-point of order kuzawubuya usisi lo udila nama-emotion nama-nominations. Right? Yes.
Okay, comrades, we have noted uSibusiso Mhlongo wasemzala Nxumalo. We will test that name when we makufika isikhathi. Can we then proceed with providing the list of names?
Sanibona. Umakhosi wakaMbhele lo
eThekwini region ngaphansi kwekhotho yomkhunya zone sizongiphakamisa igama lika Comrade Duvusmuzi Dube.
Comrades, Rule 6. That's all I'm going to say. Skuben.
Sanbonani. Igama uXolani Martinise from Ward 62 Msikelwa Mthembu branch. Uphakamisa igama lika Mndeni Mkhize.
Igama uSanele Ngcobo from Ward 97 branch eThekwini. Uphakamisa igama lika Mthandeni Dlungwane.
Mthandeni.
Awamakuzola.
Kancane nje. Yes, proceed.
Igama nguSicelo Notyesi from Ward 101 eThekwini region. Ngiphakamisa igama lika Blose.
Ublose.
Blose.
Aliphelele igama. We need the full name, sir, please.
Spiwe Blose.
Thank you. Proceed.
Andiswa Zoko Tolomanemia is a region ngiphakamisa igama lika Comrade Umzwandile Mkhwanazi.
Mzwandile Mkhwanazi. Kuba, ma'am.
Thank you, Chair. Igama Nolisa Madolo, Entolomani Myayiza region, Ward 17. Iphakamisa igama lika Nomakiki Majola.
Nomakiki.
Thank you very much. Greetings. My name is
Kancane nje. Proceed, sir.
all right, thanks. My name is Lindo Ndlovu from Musadladla region, Msizi Dube branch, Ward 13. I nominate the name of Sizopila Mkhize.
Sizophila. Proceed, sir.
Siyabonga mphathi ohlelo. Igama lami nguXolani kwaKampele. Ngaphansi kweSub-region akwaDukuza. Ngaphansi kweGerald Gizenga Mpanza region. Ngiphakamisa igama lika Mama Nomusa Dube Ncube.
Nomusa. Kuba.
Thank you, Chair. Igama lami nguHlengiwe Mkhize, Ward 11, Ulundi sub-region, Mzala Nxumalo region. Ngiphakamisa igama lika Victor Dlamini.
Bani, ma'am?
Victor Dlamini.
Victor Dlamini.
Sibonge Hlalo igama
Kancane nje.
All right, obviously coming live from Durban, the 9th elective conference happening in KwaZulu-Natal for the African National Congress. Currently on our screens, the nomination of additional members of the PC underway. Let's bring in our reporter, Samkele Maseko, to give us an update on what we can expect for the rest of the day. A very good afternoon to you, Samkele. Thank you very much for joining us. Let's just kick off with conflicting reports coming in. Perhaps you can confirm ANC President now officially set to be closing the conference once again. Do we know what, in fact, led to this change?
We don't know what led to this change of the ANC president confirming now that he is coming to address the provincial conference of KwaZulu-Natal. We do know that the ANC's head of presidency at Luchuli House and other NEC officials are currently in a meeting with the newly elected officials of KwaZulu-Natal in preparation for Cyril Ramaphosa's address to this conference this afternoon. I am going to ask my colleague just to show you the visuals of the presidential protection unit that is already in place preparing for the arrival of the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa. As you can see, those two members of the Presidential Protection Unit, who are now outside here in the area where the president of the ANC will be arriving. We also have seen a number of the Presidential Protection Unit members inside the conference plenary. We also did extend a call to one of those who work in the president's office, and it is confirmed now that the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa will definitely be addressing this conference of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal this afternoon.
There's obviously been a hive of activity throughout the weekend, Samkela, and just perhaps before we let you go, I mean, there's also been some reports that there are a handful of ANC members carrying placards where it's written Ramaphosa must go. We've heard some of the chanting throughout the weekend as well. Perhaps you could paint that picture. What are some of the concerns as those reports also emerge?
We have seen Mr. Carl Niehaus, who is an ANC member and a critic of ANC President Ramaphosa, carrying those placards calling for the removal of ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa, whom they are raising issues pertaining to his Phala farm, the burglary, the millions of dollars which were allegedly stolen at Mr. Ramaphosa's farm in Phala, which are some of the issues that they are speaking against. And particularly they feel as if he has been one of those whom has been persecuting former President Jacob Zuma, saying that he left the former president of the ANC high and dry, which is some of the issues Carl Niehaus is, and particularly the suspension of ANC Secretary General Ace Magashule are some of the factors that those disgruntled members of the party are raising. But what is confirmed for now is that the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa will definitely be coming to address this conference, particularly among speculation that those delegates that are gathered at this conference, all 1,607 of them, that some of them would be booing the president of the African National Congress, Cyril Ramaphosa, and heckling him, particularly when you look at the reception they gave to Paul Mashatile, the acting Secretary General of the ANC, in expressing their views on what has transpired over the past few years when it comes to former President Jacob Zuma, who is currently on home arrest, on parole rather, at his home in KwaDagwaDunuse in Nkandla.
Samkela, before I let you go, I mean, obviously the stakes are high, lots of happening before the conference close. Perhaps you could just walk us through what else we can expect. I mean, currently the nomination of additional PC members were underway just before we spoke to you.
What we do know is that currently the nominations of the additional members of the African National Congress PEC are currently being nominated. We have seen a number of ANC leaders being nominated. What was rather interesting was to see the name of Sbu Mhlongo, the regional chairperson of the Mzala Nxumalo region, not meeting threshold, being nominated from the floor to be an additional member of the PEC, which shows the balance of forces when it comes to the Mzala Nxumalo region as well. But also when you look at how Toli, who is the former regional secretary of the Musa Dladla region, where former President Jacob Zuma is from that specific region, he made it onto the ballot paper. You look at Peking Konyeni, who was raised from the floor, she also made it onto the ballot paper for additional members of the Provincial Executive Committee of the African National Congress, who will be slugging it out this afternoon to be voted in as Provincial Executive Committee members. What would be interesting is to see if Sihlezi Galala will make it as an additional member of the PEC. We have seen a lineup from those who supported Mthumseni Ntuli and Sihlezi Galala to be in the PEC. That name of Sihlezi Galala was not in the perspective belonging to those whom have seemingly won the officials of the party within the province of KwaZulu-Natal, but the name of Mthumseni Ntuli is included in that list of those whom have been who've won this provincial conference in the essence of the officials of the party as well. But it will be interesting to see the cohort of names that will finally make it into the PEC additionals of the province of KwaZulu-Natal. But ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa is definitely confirmed to be making his way to address the province of KwaZulu-Natal's conference here at the Olive Centre, as opposed to the reports that he was no longer coming this morning, as confirmed by the chairperson of the province, Siboniso Duma. Instead, now there has been a dramatic twist of events. He is making his way to KwaZulu-Natal.
All right, Samgele Maseko, thank you very much for that update. Of course, rolling coverage coming from Durban, where the 9th elective conference for the African National Congress in KZN is obviously taking place. From Samgele, let's cross to our political analyst, Dr. Levi Ndau, is also going to be giving us some analysis based on what's transpired this weekend, perhaps as that conference concludes. A very good afternoon to you, Dr. Levi. Thank you for joining us here on the SABC.
Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to the viewers at home. Thank you for having me.
We have just heard from senior politics reporter Samgele Maseko, and he's confirmed that the president will be making an address today at the closing of the conference. Perhaps, you could speak to what do we make of the conflicting statements that have come out to date upon the president, attending the conference, etc., given the dynamics that are unfolding as we're speaking?
Well, there are, of course, reports of threats against the president and being not properly welcomed by the people of KwaZulu-Natal based on what has been going on in that province. The president of the ANC, Ramaphosa, if deployed to KwaZulu-Natal by his party, the ANC, he has to go and close the provincial conference of the ANC because of a number of factors. The first factor is that he is the president of the ANC, and if assigned that role by his party, he has to do so. Number two, there shouldn't be no-go areas for leaders of a political party or any other person, because of course, if he's the president of the ANC, he should then be able to attend all gatherings of the ANC with no exception, especially when he's actually deployed to go there. Number three, the ANC is in the process of renewal and forging unity. You need the leadership of the ANC through the president in most instances to lead that project of renewal and unity. And it will also be good that the president is then able, for the first time, to meet the newly elected leadership of the ANC, because these are the people that he will be working with as we move forward. Now that Liezle Wilson is no longer the chairperson of the province, it will be important that the new leadership of the province is also known and introduced to the president of the party.
Oh, you speak about, the president of the African National Congress meeting this new leadership. Obviously, that's set to be introduced a little later today. And perhaps we could then speak to, what this change in leadership perhaps means for the president vying for a second term as well.
It means a lot. Firstly, it means that democracy in the ANC is in action. It teaches us one thing, which is obvious, that in politics, leadership is not permanently guaranteed. Because you have got several people who would love to occupy positions in the party, then the possibility of change of leadership is very high. That is why we're seeing this happening in KwaZulu-Natal. Those who are maturing in democracy should not see this as something bad, but they should see this as a demonstration of democracy in action. Liezle Wilson himself has been aware that he cannot be a permanent leader of the ANC. As it comes to the president's ambition for second term, it might have dented rather his ambition for second term, because it appears as if those that have been elected might not support his ambition for second term. But I think it's important to note that, number one, if you look at the election results in KwaZulu-Natal, the numbers are not that big that have been for the support of the current leadership. So it means that Ramaphosa still has support amongst some of the branches in KwaZulu-Natal, or some of the branches were not in support of the current leadership. Number two, South Africa has got 9 provinces. And if KwaZulu-Natal is not in support of the incumbent, who is President Ramaphosa, they still have to consult and negotiate with other provinces that have, of course, have indicated that they will be supporting Ramaphosa. It then means that the process of negotiations, persuasions, and lobbying is still going to happen amongst the other, amongst the different provinces of the ANC. And lastly, I think it's important to note that when you have to look at leadership, especially as we move towards the elective conference of the ANC, you need leaders that will be able to negotiate, that will be able to persuade others, who must not portray elements of arrogance, because whatever you do has an impact to negatively affect what you intend doing, or to positively affect that. So what will be important for me will be that those who are lobbying for other leaders to occupy senior positions in the party should develop strategies to persuade each other, to negotiate with each other, so that their preferred candidates might then make it at the end of the day.
Well, that actually leads me to my next point. And, you know, I mean, whether some are of the view that this conference demonstrates the power of the RET faction in KwaZulu-Natal, and perhaps whether they are sympathetic towards former President Jacob Zuma or not. Obviously, the outcomes of KZN is going to have implications for the country and the ruling party at large. And I wonder if you could speak to what those implications are, maybe even as we focus at some of the political figures of several leaders, perhaps including former Health Minister, Dr. Zweli Mkhize, amongst others.
Well, yes, they have a huge impact on the preference of leadership at national level. And that is why my view is that the current leadership of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal has a very long way to go in terms of trying to influence the outcome of an elective conference in December. But that does not necessarily mean that it will be very easy for KZN to influence that direction. Look at what happened in Nasrec in 2017. KwaZulu-Natal came as a strong, united force in support of certain candidates. Unfortunately, they still could not make it because they wanted to impose their leaders on other provinces. And that is why I'm saying it will be very important for those who want to have their preferred candidates elected to develop better strategies to communicate, to lobby, and to negotiate with leaders and with other provinces, because you can't make it alone as a province. You need other provinces. Equally, politicians know that as they negotiate, as they plan for leadership, they should also compromise so that they don't actually lose everything. So if they go there without the mind of compromising for certain positions, they might actually lose everything. So this period from now until December is going to be a period of persuasions, a period of negotiations, and of course, arrogancy might not work because you actually need others whilst they also need you in terms of supporting one's project. And that is what the seasoned negotiators would actually be required.
Speaking of which, the last 2 points perhaps also look at the issue of leadership at large. And I want to bring up the issue of step-aside charges, the rules around that, and also the impact going forward. While some are obviously calling for that to be amended, I mean, how would this ultimately impact those who are already under that rule? What sort of consequences come about as a result?
I think it's important to note that the step-aside rule does not belong to individuals. It belongs to the ANC. It is the ANC conference that decided on the step-aside rule. And it should be members of the ANC who must still take the matter back and have discussions and decisions based on the step-aside rule. There has been complaints from other sectors within the ANC that apparently the step-aside rule seemed to have been created to target certain individuals. There has been concerns from other sectors within the party that certain sections of the step-aside rule has to be relooked, be amended so that it actually talks to what ordinary members of the ANC and those who are not happy about it has to be dealt with. But equally, there is nothing wrong in making amendments to decisions that have been taken. That is why the party still has to go to policy conferences. That is why the party still open up issues like this one for members to make proposals. If indeed they wanted to continue amended or be done away with, that still has to be done. So it is up to the members themselves to decide. What I expect to see is that members who are against the rule should actually advance concrete proposals and reasons that will be accepted by other members of the party from other provinces so that they actually agree on one resolution that must unite the entire membership of the party.
Well, speaking of which, that policy conference is obviously set to take place next week, and we'll obviously also be bringing all of that coverage here on the SABC. In conclusion, though, Dr. Levi, I want to look at leadership at large. I mean, now that the incumbent top five have been elected, and obviously we're going to be introduced to them a little later on, I wonder if, you could speak to what they represent. I'm asking this because obviously KwaZulu-Natal is a province, beyond the political dynamics that have unfolded, have also experienced, quite a lot during the past year. We've seen the July riots, we've seen the issue of the floods, questions about maladministration, amongst other things. So when we look at it at large, what does this new leadership inspire? I mean, ultimately, it is for the people at the end of the day.
What I've observed about the new leadership, especially the top five, is that it is a generation of people that are relatively younger, and it is the generation of people that appear to be very energetic in terms of dealing with issues affecting KwaZulu-Natal. It also appears to be a group of people that is aligned to former President Jacob Zuma. And what I expect from this group of people is that they need to step up the game and unify the province of KwaZulu-Natal. And equally so, this leadership has a responsibility to ensure that they build the branches of the ANC, which has actually lost many municipalities in the previous elections. This leadership must ensure that the ANC wins the elections in KwaZulu-Natal. And of course, this leadership must then be able to participate very actively in the policy processes that are coming next week, so that the voice of KwaZulu-Natal should also be heard at that conference. My expectation also is that in the context of unity, this leadership should try its best to work with the outgoing leadership of the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, and they should actually do that in the interest of unity and cohesion in the ANC.
Dr. Levi Ndau, thank you very much for your time once again here on the SABC. Again, just speaking to some of the outcomes that we have witnessed over the weekend as the KwaZulu-Natal, the ANC KwaZulu-Natal conference, elective conference gets underway. Again, giving us analysis on some of the dynamics unfolding there, referring to what our senior politics reporter Samgele Maseko echoed earlier on. ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa is now officially expected to close the 9th KwaZulu-Natal conference today. And then also just speaking about the incumbent leadership, what they represent, and perhaps what we can expect ahead, and how this impacts the broader picture for the African National Congress, and of course as they head into their national elections comes later this year, which ultimately affects the future of the country. Again, thank you very much to him for his time again here on the SABC. Let's leave it there, take a quick ad break, and continue with more news on the other side. We'll be right back. Welcome back. This is the week ahead with myself, Liezle Wilson. Let's continue with more news now, but perhaps on a somber note. South African actor, playwright and theatre director Mqedisi Baldwin Shabangu passed away this morning. According to his family, Shabangu passed away after complaining of chest pains, where the 53-year-old was best known for his roles in Rhythm City, Home Sweet Home, and of course The Lab. Shabangu's brother, Mthokozizi, says the actor passed away after being rushed to a local clinic this morning. Of course, wishing him and his family our sincere condolences from the SABC. But in other news now, further afield, the World Health Organization has now declared monkeypox a global health emergency. This follows a surge in cases. So far this year, there have been more than 16,000 cases of monkeypox in more than 75 countries and 5 deaths in Africa. Pressure from scientists and public health experts has been increasing in recent weeks for the World Health Organization and various national governments to take more action on monkeypox.
For all of these reasons, I have decided that the global monkeypox outbreak represents a public health emergency of international concern. And there are now more than 16,000 reported cases from 75 countries and territories and 5 deaths. WHO's assessment is that the risk of monkeypox is moderate globally and in all regions, except in the European region, where we assess the risk is high. Although I'm declaring a public health emergency of international concern, for the moment, this is an outbreak that's concentrated among men who have sex with men, especially those with multiple sexual partners. That means that this is an outbreak that can be stopped with the right strategies in the right groups.
Well, closer to home, residents of Chidzini outside Thohoyandou in Limpopo believe their village is rich in mineral resources underground. This follows the discovery of rocks with sulfides mineralization, where geologists say this may be an indication of an abundance of copper and gold below the surface.
Chidzini is one of Limpopo's biodiversity hotspots. The picturesque village boasts some of the most beautiful topography and high annual rainfalls. If what residents are seeing is anything to go by, the village may be set for a major economic lifeline. The discovery of the peculiar rocks prompted community leaders to seek expert knowledge. They are inviting geologists into their village to conduct research to ascertain the authenticity of the rocks. I saw it when I was working in my yard. I came across strange rocks that looked out of place. I'd never seen anything like that in my life. That's when I called others to come and see. We then realized that the rocks are all over. Community leaders say while they await thorough assessment of the rocks, they are hoping for the best. We are not sure right now because we are just laymen, but if it is proven that indeed there are minerals, it will bring economic prosperity into our village.
fara ro takala nga maanḓa ra zwa approve uri yes indeed is your own ri ḓo pfa ri right.
The University of Venda says its Earth Sciences Department is open to help the village with the tests.
There are some yellowish minerals appearing on those basalts, and it looks like some sulfides mineralization. And mostly when we talk about sulfide mineralization, we are talking about minerals like pyrite, which normally people call it, or will normally call it fool's gold. So for us to confirm exactly what is within those rocks, we really need to go to the site and we see the samples themselves, and then we can confirm what is really within those type of rocks. And then to advise the community what they need to do to take a step further, I think they need to consult the Department of Mining and Environmental Geology at the University of Venda. Then we can come and assist them.
The testing of sulfides is a long and complex process that includes the drilling of over 200 holes. Rutando Bobori, SABC News in Chidzini.
In other news, a tug of war has erupted over control of the Bloemfontein-based electricity supplier Sentlek. The simmering tensions have also been fueled by alleged death threats, infighting and irregular and wasteful expenditure.
Sentlek generates over 100 million rand per annum for the cash-strapped Mangaung Metro. It's owed more than 200 million rand by government departments. Mass resignations of board members have threatened its stability. It is left with only 2 board members who cannot be a quorum. Board chairperson Kenosi Moroka has been accused of potential conflict of interest. Moroka, who is an attorney, has business ties with the Mangaung Metro. Mangaung is the sole shareholder of Sentlek. To add insult to injury, Moroka and Sentlek CEO Malefane Sekoboto do not see eye to eye. Sekoboto has commissioned a report which blames Moroka for irregular and wasteful expenditure in excess of 50 million rand.
Sentlek has losses in the audited financial year of over 22 million rand. Its current liabilities exceeds its current assets, making that company technically bankrupt.
So the politicians are very much interested in making sure that they have the proximity to the money of Sentlek.
Resolving the problems here must be speeded up so that we can have good governance in the institution.
Former Sentlek Chief Financial Officer Shonelwa Nkomo wants Sekoboto to be declared a delinquent director. In papers before the High Court, Nkomo alleges that Sekoboto's position was never advertised nor interviews conducted. She also claims that Sekoboto has a criminal record which disqualified him as a director.
What is important for the city, it is to make sure that Sentlek is functional, they execute their responsibilities, and any other matter will be dealt with in line with the laws and the regulations.
Moroka says irregular expenditure incurred under his watch has been lawfully condoned by the Mangaung Council, and that he's never allowed his business relationship with the Mangaung Metro to compromise Sentlek. He claims he's been targeted for his tough stance on corruption.
Even people were sent to threaten me that they're going to kill me. So wherever I am, I'm always on the alert. But people were sent to say they've got to eliminate me because of my conduct at Sentlek. I'm standing in their way. The police know it. They even know those people.
Meanwhile, Sekoboto has dismissed allegations against him as smear campaign. He says they have an interdict against Nkomo, who wants him to be declared a delinquent director, and that Nkomo allegedly left Sentlek under a cloud. Teboho Letshaba, SABC News, Bloemfontein.
Welcome back. The week ahead continues. Let's take a look at more news now. With the Northern Cape Economic Development Department says the province aims to be the country's hub for renewable energy. This comes as the province will soon become home to one of the world's largest solar and battery facilities constructed by Scatec and Kenhardt. With energy constraints currently experienced in the country and high unemployment rates, the department says the solar power project is going to be a game changer. The project by Norwegian renewable energy company Scatec will be 10 kilometers wide and include about 2 million solar panels. The construction of the unique hybrid solar PV and battery storage project is expected to make an immense contribution to South Africa's economy and the energy sector. Construction is expected to take 15 months before power can be fed to the grid. About 2,000 jobs expected to be created during the construction period. Meanwhile, in other news, energy regulator NERSA will hold public stakeholder workshops to facilitate discussions that will assist the electricity division in finalizing the new price determination methodology. The regulator says this is for the benefit of the country's industries, end user customers and licensees. NERSA says the old pricing model was predicted on the bundled power utility and will no longer work now that this is being unbundled. NERSA also says it seeks to move away from revenue setting to tariff setting to ensure the tariffs are cost reflective for suppliers at large. It will also seek to balance that with the interests of the consumers to protect them from price gouging, especially during periods of supply shortages. The energy regulator says the closing date for written comments is on the 29th of July this year. Well, MTN has issued employees in its finance department a Section 189A notice. The company has confirmed that 173 employees are affected. It says that this initiative began back in 2020, creating 450 new jobs in digital technology, financial technology, wholesale and enterprise spaces. MTN's Executive for Cooperative Affairs, Jackie O'Sullivan, says that the 173 employees will have the opportunity to apply for the 205 new or change roles. The company says its focus will be on upskilling and redeploying the employees to other areas of the MTN group. Well, other news now. Northern Cape Education has pledged to rid the province of asbestos schools by 2030. It says it will rebuild 7 schools this year and the rest by 2030 as the budget allows. Asbestos has caused havoc in the Northern Cape, where several mines were located. Some residents are still suffering from asbestos and other lung disease as well.
Uppington's Franciscus Intermediate School is one of the schools that will benefit from the asbestos eradication program. The school building is riddled with asbestos, and a section of it has been cordoned off as some walls and roof has exposed asbestos fibers. Construction will begin soon to turn the school into a state-of-the-art asbestos-free facility.
I appreciate it because we welcome it, because of, a lot of people are getting sick through that. That's why I can say I agree with all those things.
I'm looking forward to it, and I hope as soon as possible it's going to happen. And asbestos is also dangerous for health problems, and it can also cause cancer.
The Northern Cape Education Department says a handful of schools will be rebuilt this year, and the rest will follow as finances allow. The eradication program will cost around 100 million rands per school.
According to our budget, which funds we are getting to the education infrastructure grant, we are starting with the 7, and as budget is available, then we continue to eradicate all those schools. Carlton van Heerden, and that is a mega school, and we have budgeted about 105 million for the school. And yesterday I've had a sword turning at Franciscus, which also the asbestos school, and the budget for that school is about 100 million rands.
Several municipalities also have programs to have asbestos roofs removed from houses built in the mid-1900s, especially in townships. Ulrich Hendricks, SABC News, Uppington, Northern Cape.
Welcome back. Let's continue with more news now. Opposition parties warn that Parliament could once again be found wanting if it doesn't deal with President Ramaphosa's Balabala farm robbery effectively. Some parties say Parliament is making the same mistakes it did when handling the Nkandla saga. The DA has again written to the Speaker of the House asking her to reconsider her position not to establish an ad hoc committee to probe the matter.
2 Constitutional Court judgments ruled on the role of Parliament and its handling of the Nkandla debacle. In 2016, the Concourt found that Parliament's actions were inconsistent with the Constitution after the National Assembly resolution to absolve former President Jacob Zuma of liability following upgrades to his private residence at Nkandla. A year later, another Concourt judgment found that Parliament had failed to hold the former president accountable. Opposition parties say the handling of Nkandla will always be a blot on Parliament's integrity.
The country and Parliament must never ever allow a repeat of what happened during the Nkandla scandal. The Pala Pala farm robbery at President Ramaphosa's farm needs transparency and honesty. The cover-up on Nkandla scandal had a huge knock on the integrity of Parliament.
It reminds one of what happened during the Nkandla debacle, where party politics were put ahead of good governance, and the ANC at the time tried their best to try and deflect an inquiry into Nkandla. It seems we are going down the same route here.
Now with the Pala Pala situation, we cannot afford to have a recurrence of that findings that Parliament is not standing up and doing what it is supposed to do. It is really concerning that the Speaker is not prepared to learn, as far as I'm concerned, from the Nkandla judgment.
The ACDP is deeply concerned that Parliament might be going down the same route with inadequate oversight over President Ramaphosa, as was the case with the Nkandla scandal involving former President Zuma. The ANC then did everything in its power to protect President Zuma.
National Assembly Speaker Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula denied a request by the DA and UDM to probe the matter. She said the issue was being investigated by other law enforcement agencies and that they can be handled by Parliament's existing oversight structures. The DA says it's asked the Speaker to reconsider her decision.
The time of the Nkandla judgment, Judge Mogoeng was incredibly critical of Parliament's inability to be able to hold the executive accountable. It made the point that there was no reason why there couldn't be a concurrent parliamentary investigation while criminal investigations, other investigations were ongoing. The Speaker's refusal to allow an ad hoc committee to look into the Pala Pala matter is incredibly disappointing and another blow to Parliament's role as the arena of executive accountability.
The African Transformation Movement also called for the President's removal.
Parliament is making a grave mistake in the manner in which it is handling the Pala Pala farm scandal. We note that the Speaker has declined requests from political parties who wanted the executive and the president to be investigated on their role on the Pala Pala farm scandal. We note that the Speaker is using her powers to shield the executive from accountability.
But the Speaker has rejected allegations that she was shielding the executive and the president from accountability. Her office says she has always guarded, protected and promoted the rights of MPs to advance their oversight responsibility.
However, it is important that members themselves assist the institution to fulfill effective and sustainable oversight by ensuring that in their oversight responsibilities, they uphold and follow the rules they themselves have created, and that they are also importantly mindful of the constitutional provisions and guidance in the course of carrying out their responsibilities. Any contrary action in pursuit of oversight will defeat the very purpose and weaken Parliament's ability to carry out its constitutional responsibilities. The Speaker always is ready to assist members on the correct procedures to follow in this regard. It is for this reason that with regard to the request by the ATM, for instance, the Speaker has specifically directed the party's attention to some of the defects in its proposed motion.
Boloto says the ATM has since submitted a revised motion, which the Speaker is considering. The ANC in Parliament says it will not respond until the criticism is formally tabled once Parliament resumes next month. Abra Barbia, SABC News, Parliament.
Well, that's where we leave it for you today. Thank you very much for tuning in. Of course, have a blessed week ahead, and we'll see you again late in the week for a look at the Week in Review. It's goodbye for now.